The crisp autumn wind swept across the rolling plains of Thunder Valley Ranch, rustling through the golden wheat fields like whispers of secrets untold. James Harrison, a weathered farmer with 30 years of working the land etched into his calloused hands, stood at his barn's entrance, watching an unexpected visitor who had appeared 3 days ago. A magnificent wild Mustang, its coat the color of burnished copper in the dawn light. Something was different about this horse. Its behavior unlike any wild Mustang he'd encountered in all his years on the Montana rangeland. The way it refused to leave his barn stirred memories he'd long tried to forget. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The Mustang's presence defied everything James knew about wild horses. Instead of fleeing at the sight of humans, it lingered near the barn's entrance, its intelligent eyes following his every move with an intensity that sent chills down his spine. Even more puzzling was how it interacted with his other horses, especially his old mare, Belle, who had served him faithfully for 15 years. The wild horse seemed to communicate with her in ways that transcended normal equine behavior. James had first noticed the Mustang during a particularly bitter cold snap that had descended upon Thunder Valley without warning. He'd been closing up the barn for the night when he spotted the horse standing just beyond the fence line, its breath creating ghostly plumes in the freezing air. What struck him most wasn't just its unexpected appearance, but the deliberate way it approached the barn, as if it knew exactly where it was going. In his decades of farming and ranching, James had encountered plenty of wild Mustangs. Thunder Valley's location near the Broken Sage Wildlife Reserve meant occasional visits from these free-roaming spirits, but they always kept their distance, maintaining that invisible boundary between wild and domesticated worlds. This one was different. It moved with purpose, carrying itself with an almost military precision that stirred something in James's memory. Emma, his daughter, had noticed it too. "Dad," she'd said that first morning, her voice carrying a note of wonder, "that Mustang acts like it's been trained. Look at how it positions itself, always maintaining sightlines to both exits." Her observation carried weight. Emma hadn't spent 6 years as a horse trainer for nothing. But her words also touched something deeper, something that made James's old shoulder wound ache with remembered pain. The Mustang's behavior became more peculiar as days passed. It established a routine, patrolling the perimeter of the barn at specific intervals, always alert, always watching. During the day, it would allow Emma to approach within a few yards, but never close enough to touch. At night, James would find it standing guard near the barn entrance, its posture reminiscent of a sentinel at its post. "Have you called the wildlife authorities?" Martha, James's wife of 30 years, had asked over breakfast that morning. Maybe it's from one of those wild horse rehabilitation programs. But James had hesitated. Something about the Mustang's presence felt deeply personal, like a message he wasn't quite ready to decode. The horse's most bizarre behavior centered around the old trunk James kept in the barn's loft. He'd noticed how the Mustang's ears would prick forward whenever he climbed up there, its attention laser-focused on that particular spot. That trunk hadn't been opened in 15 years, not since James had returned from his last tour overseas. It contained memories of a different life, a different man, uniforms, medals, and photographs of faces he sometimes struggled to remember. On this particular morning, as James watched the Mustang from the barn entrance, something changed in its demeanor. The horse's muscular frame tensed, its nostrils flaring as it caught a scent on the wind. James followed its gaze toward the distant tree line where the first rays of sunlight were just beginning to pierce the morning mist. "What do you see, boy?" James murmured, surprising himself with the familiar way he addressed the wild animal. The Mustang's ears swiveled toward his voice, and for a moment their eyes met. In that instant, James saw something that made his heart skip a beat, a glimmer of recognition, an intelligence that seemed almost human. Emma's boots crunched on the gravel behind him. "Dad, I think I might have figured something out about our visitor." She held up her tablet, showing a news article from 3 months ago. There was a specialized therapy program for veterans about 50 miles from here. They worked with rehabilitated wild Mustangs, but they had to shut down suddenly when their funding was cut. James barely heard the rest of her explanation. His mind had caught on one detail: the program's location. 50 miles north, near the old Morrison military base, where he'd done his final training before deployment. The same base where he'd learned to ride, where he'd first understood the powerful bond between humans and horses. The Mustang watched their interaction intently, its ears forward, head held high, in a posture that seemed almost proud. When Emma moved to enter the barn, it shifted slightly, maintaining its position between them and the building's entrance. The movement was subtle but deliberate, protective rather than threatening. "It's like it's guarding something," Emma observed, her trainer's eye picking up on the nuanced behavior. "But what could a wild horse possibly be protecting in our barn?" James felt the old trunk's presence above them like a physical weight. 15 years of carefully packed away memories of a time when he'd worn a different uniform, when he'd been part of something bigger than himself. The Mustang's appearance, its bizarre behavior, the way it seemed drawn to that specific spot, none of it could be coincidence. The wind picked up, carrying with it the distant sound of thunder. The Mustang's reaction was immediate and unexpected. It moved closer to the barn entrance, its body language shifting from alertness to what James could only describe as urgency. The horse's behavior triggered something in his military training, a recognition of warning signs he hadn't used in years. "Emma, get your mother on the phone," James said, his voice taking on a tone she hadn't heard since childhood. "Tell her to check the weather radar. Something's not right." As his daughter pulled out her phone, James studied the Mustang more carefully, years of combat instincts slowly reawakening. The horse's attention remained fixed on the distant horizon, where dark clouds were gathering with unusual speed. Its muscles rippled beneath its copper coat, tension evident in every line of its body. James had seen this behavior before, not in horses, but in the highly trained military animals he'd worked with overseas. Animals that could sense danger before any human awareness. Martha's voice crackled through Emma's phone, her words confirming what the Mustang already seemed to know. "There's a massive storm system moving in from the north. They're saying it could be the worst we've seen in decades. The emergency alert system just activated." As if in response to Martha's warning, the Mustang let out a low nicker, a sound that seemed to carry both urgency and purpose. It moved deliberately toward the barn's interior, then turned to look at them, its behavior so clearly communicative that both James and Emma found themselves moving to follow. The first fat drops of rain began to fall as they entered the barn, carrying with them the metallic scent of an approaching storm. The Mustang led them deeper inside, past the stalls, where James's other horses were growing restless, their own instincts responding to the changing weather. Standing in the barn's shadowy interior, watching this wild creature that behaved so, unlike any Mustang he'd ever encountered, James felt the pieces of a puzzle beginning to align. The precision of its movements, its protective behavior, its focus on the loft where that old trunk lay untouched for 15 years. It all pointed to something that seemed impossible, yet nagged at the edges of his consciousness like a half-remembered dream. Thunder rolled across Thunder Valley, closer now, and the Mustang's reaction confirmed what James was beginning to suspect. This was no ordinary wild horse, and its appearance at his barn was no accident. As the storm gathered strength outside, James realized he was about to uncover a truth that would challenge everything he thought he knew about his past, his present, and the mysterious visitor that had chosen his barn as its sanctuary. The storm's intensity grew with unnatural speed, transforming the peaceful morning into a maelstrom of wind and rain. Inside the barn, James watched as the mysterious Mustang moved with increased purpose, its attention alternating between the loft above and the barn's entrance. The horse's behavior stirred memories of his military days, particularly of a classified, a program he'd been part of in his final years of service, something he'd sworn never to discuss. Emma secured the barn doors against the howling wind, her experienced hands moving quickly through the familiar task. "Dad," she called over the growing storm, "there's something else about that therapy program I found." She pulled up another article on her tablet, but before she could continue, the Mustang suddenly froze. Its ears pricked forward in high alert. Through the gaps in the barn's weathered boards, James caught glimpses of movement at the edge of their property. 3 black SUVs had pulled up near the fence line, their occupants emerging, despite the dangerous weather. Even at this distance, their tactical gear and coordinated movements marked them as professionals. Not the kind of visitors a Montana wrench typically received during a storm. The Mustang's reaction to the vehicles was immediate and shocking. Gone was the calm, deliberate behavior of the past few days. Instead, the horse moved with explosive energy, positioning itself between the barn entrance and the approaching figures. Its posture reminded James of military patrol horses he'd worked with overseas, alert and ready for action. "Emma, get behind the feed bins," James instructed, his voice carrying the quiet authority of his combat days. His daughter started to protest, but stopped when she saw his expression, one she'd only seen in old photographs from his service years. The Mustang glanced their way, seeming to approve of James's tactical decision. The barn's interior had grown darker as the storm intensified, but James could still make out the mysterious horse's form as it moved with practiced precision. Its behavior was becoming impossible to dismiss as mere coincidence. The way it established sightlines, how it used the barn's support columns for cover, this was no ordinary wild Mustang. James's hand unconsciously moved to his right shoulder, where an old wound ached with the approaching storm. 15 years ago, on his last deployment, he'd been part of something extraordinary, a military program so classified that even now he sometimes wondered if he'd imagined it all. But watching this copper-colored Mustang move with such tactical awareness brought it all rushing back. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the barn in stark flashes that revealed more vehicles arriving. The Mustang remained focused on the entrance, but its ears constantly swiveled, tracking every sound with military precision. James noticed how it kept adjusting its position to maintain clear lines of sight to both the loft and their location behind the feed bins. "Attention inside the barn," a voice called out, somehow carrying over the storm's fury. "This is a matter of national security. We know about the horse. Cooperate, and this can be resolved quickly." The voice triggered something in James's memory. He'd heard similar professional detachment before, in briefings that never officially happened. Emma's tablet chimed softly, drawing their attention. The article she'd been trying to show him was still open, but now James could see the full headline. "Military-funded horse therapy program suddenly shuttered. Concerns over experimental methods cited." Below it, a grainy photo showed a facility that looked more like a research center than a therapy ranch. The Mustang's behavior shifted again, becoming more agitated as footsteps approached the barn. But this wasn't the blind panic of a trapped wild animal. Every movement seemed calculated, almost strategic. It reminded James of formation maneuvers, of countless hours spent training with specialized units that pushed the boundaries of what was possible. "Mr. Harrison," the voice called again, closer now, "we know about your military background. You understand the importance of operational security. What's in your barn represents years of classified research. Help us contain the situation." The words confirmed James's growing suspicions, but they also raised alarming questions about what exactly this Mustang represented. Rain drummed against the barn's roof as James processed the implications. The trunk in the loft, untouched for 15 years, contained more than just memories of his service. It held documents about a program that had seemed too ambitious, too incredible to be real, until now. The Mustang's appearance, its impossible behavior, the arrival of these mysterious officials, it was all connected to those classified files he'd been ordered to forget. Emma's training experience kicked in as she observed the horse's movements. "Dad, look at how it's using the barn's layout. It's not just seeking shelter, it's executing a defensive strategy. I've never seen a horse demonstrate this level of tactical awareness." Her words carried the weight of professional assessment, making the situation even more extraordinary. The Mustang's ears suddenly pivoted toward the loft, and James followed its gaze to the trunk that held his military secrets. Lightning flashed again, and in that brief illumination, he noticed something he'd missed before. A small mark on the horse's flank, partially hidden by its copper coat. The pattern was familiar, matching a symbol in those classified documents he'd locked away years ago. "Last chance for a peaceful resolution," the voice announced. "We're authorized to use whatever means necessary to secure the asset." The term asset sent a chill down James's spine. It was the same clinical language used in those classified briefings, reducing extraordinary achievements to cold operational terminology. The Mustang's reaction to the threat was unprecedented. It moved to the center of the barn, directly under the loft, and let out a series of short, sharp neighs. Not the normal sounds of a distressed horse, but something that seemed almost like a code. James's military training kicked in as he recognized the pattern. 3 short, 2 long, 3 short, an old distress signal. Thunder cracked overhead as James made a decision. Whatever this horse was, whatever classified program it represented, it had chosen his barn for a reason. The way it focused on his military trunk, its tactical behavior, the distress signal. This wasn't random. The Mustang was trying to communicate something specific, something only someone with James's background would understand. Emma's tablet suddenly displayed a series of alerts, emergency warnings about the storm's unprecedented intensity. But James noticed the Mustang seemed unconcerned about the weather. Its attention remained fixed on the approaching threats, its body language suggesting it was prepared for what came next. The barn's interior had become a tactical space, with the Mustang actively using shadows and sight lines to maintain advantage. James recognized military movement patterns in its behavior, patterns he'd helped develop during his service, working on a program that had pushed the boundaries of what was possible with animal intelligence. A new sound cut through the storm, the distinctive click of weapons being readied. The mysterious visitors were done waiting for cooperation. The Mustang's muscles tensed, but instead of showing fear, it turned to look directly at James. In that moment, he saw something in its eyes that confirmed everything. This was no ordinary horse, and his quiet life on Thunder Valley Ranch was about to change dramatically. Wind howled through the barn's eaves as James reached a critical decision point. The classified program he'd been part of, the mysterious Mustang's appearance, the armed response team outside, it all pointed to something he'd hoped to leave in his past. But watching this extraordinary animal demonstrate impossible abilities, he realized some secrets couldn't stay buried forever. Lightning illuminated the barn again, revealing more figures taking position outside. The Mustang maintained its defensive stance, but James noticed how it kept returning its attention to the loft, to that trunk full of classified documents. Whatever truth lay behind this horse's appearance, the answers were connected to his military past, to a program that had apparently survived long after he'd walked away. Emma shifted behind the feed bins, her trainer's instincts warring with the surreal situation. Dad, whatever this is, whatever that horse represents, we can't let them just take it. Her words carried the same determination he'd heard in his own voice years ago, when he'd faced other impossible choices in service to his country. The storm raged on, but inside the barn, time seemed to slow as James faced a moment of truth. The mysterious Mustang had brought his past rushing back, forcing him to confront secrets he'd thought safely buried. As thunder shook the building's foundations, he knew he had to make a choice, one that would either protect this extraordinary creature or surrender it to the shadows of classified operations. James moved silently through the barn's shadows, decades of military training resurfacing. As he assessed their situation, the mysterious operatives outside had taken positions around the building, their movements suggesting a coordinated containment strategy. Inside, the copper-colored Mustang maintained its defensive position, occasionally glancing toward the trunk. In the loft, with unsettling intelligence, "Mr. Harrison," the voice outside called again, "we're prepared to offer you full immunity regarding any classified information you may have retained. Our only concern is securing the asset." The words carried professional courtesy, but James detected an underlying tension that set him on edge. Emma had pulled up more information on her tablet, her fingers moving swiftly despite the tense situation. "Dad, I've found something about the therapy program's closure. There are rumors about experimental military technology, something about enhanced cognitive development in horses. But everything's heavily redacted." The Mustang's ears twitched at her words, its reaction too specific to be coincidence. James remembered similar behavior from his time in the program, test subjects responding to key phrases with unmistakable recognition. The horse's presence here, its impossible tactical awareness, the armed response team, it all pointed to one incredible conclusion. Lightning illuminated the barn's interior, revealing more details about their unwanted visitors through gaps in the wooden walls. Their equipment was cutting-edge military grade, far beyond standard government issue. James counted at least 8 operators, with more probably out of sight. The storm's intensity had increased, but these men showed no signs of withdrawing. The Mustang suddenly shifted its attention to the barn's rear entrance. Moments before, James heard the subtle sounds of movement from that direction. The horse's ability to detect threats before they became apparent confirmed more of his suspicions about its true nature. He'd seen similar capabilities during the program's final phases, just before everything had gone wrong. "Emma," James whispered, "I need you to access the emergency tunnel." Her eyes widened. He'd shown her the concealed entrance years ago, a relic from the property's history, as part of the Underground Railroad, but they'd never had cause to use it. "Take the tunnel all the way to the Morrison Creek exit. Your mother will meet you there." The Mustang turned its head sharply toward them, its intelligent eyes moving between James and the concealed tunnel entrance. Its behavior suggested not just understanding, but active participation in their tactical planning. James had seen this level of cognitive awareness only once before, during classified trials that had pushed the boundaries of animal intelligence enhancement. "I'm not leaving you here," Emma protested, her voice barely audible above the storm. "Whatever this is, whatever that horse represents, we're facing it together." Her determination reminded James of himself at her age, standing firm against impossible odds. But this situation was beyond anything she could imagine. The mysterious horse moved closer to them, its movements deliberately quiet despite its size. Up close, James could see more details that confirmed his theories. Subtle patterns in its muscle structure, unusual clarity in its eyes, the way it processed and responded to complex situations. This was no ordinary Mustang, enhanced therapy, animal or escaped military asset. This was something far more extraordinary. "Breach team in position." A new voice crackled from outside, carrying clearly through the storm. The Mustang's reaction was immediate. It moved to create a defensive triangle between their position, the loft, and the main entrance. The formation was textbook military strategy, executed with impossible precision for a wild animal. James's mind raced through options as he recalled details from his classified past. The program had achieved breakthroughs that seemed impossible, pushing the limits of what military science could accomplish with animal subjects. But they'd also discovered dangers, unintended consequences that had led to the program's official shutdown, or so he'd been told. Emma's tablet suddenly displayed a series of encrypted messages. Someone was trying to breach her device's security. "They're good," she muttered, fingers flying over the screen. "But they don't know about my security background." Her time working with digital systems at the therapy ranch had taught her more than just horse training. The Mustang's attention shifted between the tactical situation and Emma's tablet, showing clear interest in the electronic warfare unfolding. Its behavior matched patterns James remembered from the program's most successful trials. Subjects demonstrating not just enhanced physical capabilities, but advanced cognitive processing and strategic understanding. "Final warning, Mr. Harrison," the original voice announced. "We're detecting unauthorized data access from inside the barn. Surrender the asset and any classified materials immediately." The professional tone had hardened, suggesting their window for peaceful resolution was closing rapidly. James felt the weight of his military trunk above them, containing documents that could explain everything happening now. The Mustang's appearance, its impossible abilities, the armed response. It all connected to decisions made 15 years ago, choices that had seemed right at the time, but had led to unforeseen consequences. Thunder crashed overhead as James made his decision. "Emma, the tunnel isn't a suggestion. What's about to happen?" He paused, weighing his words carefully. "There are things about my military service, about what we achieved, that were never meant to become public. That horse represents one of our greatest successes and our most dangerous failure." The Mustang's reaction to his words was remarkable. It moved closer, showing no sign of the natural caution wild horses displayed around humans. Instead, its behavior suggested recognition, perhaps even understanding of the situation's historical context. James had seen this level of awareness during the program's final phase, just before everything had changed. "2 minutes to breach," another voice called from outside. The storm's intensity seemed to mirror the growing tension, wind and rain lashing against the barn with increasing fury. But the Mustang remained focused, its enhanced capabilities evident in every calculated movement. Emma started to argue again, but stopped as the horse turned to face her. Something in its gaze, an impossible depth of intelligence, seemed to communicate the situation's gravity more effectively than any words could. She nodded slowly, understanding flooding her features. As she processed what she was witnessing, "The trunk upstairs," James said quietly, "contains evidence of everything, the program, its achievements, why it really ended. If anything happens, that information needs to reach the right people." He checked his old military watch, calculating times and distances. "Morrison Creek is swelling with the storm. The crossing will be dangerous in 20 minutes. You need to move now." The Mustang shifted position again, using its body to screen Emma's movement toward the concealed tunnel entrance. Its tactical awareness was beyond anything natural selection could produce. This was the result of careful scientific enhancement, pushed to levels that had ultimately proved too successful to control. Lightning illuminated the barn again, revealing the shadowy figures of the breach team moving into final position. The Mustang's muscles tensed, but its behavior remained controlled, strategic. James recognized the signs of advanced tactical conditioning, remembering similar behaviors from the program's most exceptional subjects. Emma reached the tunnel entrance, hesitating one final time as she looked back at her father and the extraordinary horse that had brought this situation to their barn. "Dad, when this is over, I expect the full story." Her voice carried the same strength he'd always admired in her mother. The Mustang maintained its defensive position as Emma disappeared into the tunnel, its attention divided between multiple threats with impossible precision. James knew what came next would challenge everything these operatives thought they knew about the program's achievements. The storm raged outside, but inside the barn, a different kind of storm was about to break. The next few moments unfolded with military precision as breach charges detonated at multiple points around the barn. The Mustang's reaction was extraordinary. Instead of panicking at the explosions, it moved with calculated purpose, positioning itself strategically as armed figures poured through the new openings. James recognized their equipment as next-generation military tech, confirming these weren't ordinary government agents. "Asset located," one of the operators called out, his voice filtered through an advanced tactical mask. "Primary target and one civilian present." The way they moved, their coordination, suggested extensive training in handling enhanced subjects. James wondered how many other successes from the old program they'd dealt with. The Mustang's response defied natural equine behavior. It maneuvered through the chaos with impossible precision, using the barn's support columns and shadows to maintain tactical advantage. Its movements matched patterns James had helped develop years ago, during classified trials that had pushed the boundaries of military animal enhancement. "Stand down, Harrison!" A commanding voice cut through the storm's fury. A tall figure emerged from the tactical team, his bearing unmistakably military, but his equipment more advanced than anything James had seen before. Colonel Richard Maxwell, Special Projects Division. Your involvement in this situation is a security breach we can't ignore. James felt recognition hit him like a physical force. Maxwell had been a major during the program's final days, one of the few who'd argued against shutting everything down. The man's presence here, commanding this operation, suggested the program hadn't ended. It had evolved. The Mustang reacted to Maxwell's voice with obvious recognition, but not in the way the colonel seemed to expect. Instead of submitting to apparent authority, it maintained its defensive posture, positioning itself between James and the tactical team with deliberate purpose. "Remarkable," Maxwell observed, studying the horse's behavior. 15 years of development, and still the original imprinting holds. You did exceptional work with this one, Harrison. Perhaps too exceptional. The colonel's words carried layers of meaning, hinting at events that had led to the program's official termination. Lightning flashed again, illuminating the scene in stark detail. The tactical team had established a perimeter inside the barn, their weapons trained not just on the Mustang, but on specific points around it, as if they expected it to execute practiced maneuvers. They knew exactly what this horse was capable of. The program never ended, did it? James asked, though he already knew the answer. All those warnings about uncontrolled development, the risks of pushing enhancement too far, you ignored them all. The Mustang's ears twitched at his words, its enhanced intelligence processing the conversation's implications. Maxwell smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Ignored them? We proved them wrong. This subject represents our greatest achievement. Cognitive enhancement stable enough to survive 15 years in the wild, tactical conditioning that remains intact despite complete autonomy. Think about what that means. The storm's intensity seemed to match the growing tension inside the barn. Rain hammered against the roof as James processed the implications of Maxwell's words. The program hadn't just continued. It had succeeded beyond their original goals, creating something both extraordinary and potentially dangerous. "Sir," one of the tactical operators cut in, "we're detecting anomalous energy signatures. The asset's enhancement levels are exceeding predicted parameters." The urgency in his voice suggested this was beyond their experience, even with advanced subjects. The Mustang's behavior was changing, its movements becoming more precise, more deliberate. James recognized the patterns from the program's final phase, when they'd first realized just how successful their enhancement protocols had become. Too successful, according to some. "It chose this location for a reason, didn't it?" James said, watching how the horse maintained perfect tactical awareness of every operator's position. It remembered. All these years, through all those enhancements, It remembered where the answers were hidden. Maxwell's expression hardened. The trunk in your loft, original research data, development protocols, information that could expose everything we've achieved. That's why it came here. These enhanced subjects, they're capable of long-term strategic planning we never anticipated. The Mustang's attention shifted briefly to the loft, confirming Maxwell's words. Its enhanced intelligence had led it here, seeking evidence of its own creation, perhaps even understanding the implications of that information becoming public. You don't understand what you're dealing with, James warned, recognizing signs in the horse's behavior that he'd seen only once before, just before everything had gone wrong 15 years ago. These enhancements, they evolved beyond our original. In parameters, they're still evolving. Thunder cracked overhead as Maxwell raised his hand, signaling his team. That's precisely why we're here. This subject represents a quantum leap in enhancement stability. Its cognitive development has exceeded all projections. We're not here to terminate it. We're here to bring it home. The Mustang's reaction was immediate and unprecedented. Its enhanced capabilities seemed to surge, muscles rippling with power that defied natural limitations. But it wasn't just physical enhancement on display. Its tactical responses suggested levels of cognitive development, far beyond the program's original goals. Containment Protocol Alpha, Maxwell ordered, his team moving to establish a capture formation. Non-lethal measures only. This subject is too valuable to lose. The operators produced specialized equipment, devices James had helped design, years ago for handling enhanced animals. Rain poured through the holes created by the breach charges as James watched the situation escalate. The Mustang's behavior was triggering memories of classified reports, warnings about enhancement protocols developing beyond controlled parameters. They'd created something extraordinary, but perhaps not in the way they'd intended. Energy signatures. Still climbing, the technical operator reported, his voice carrying clear concern. Sir, these readings match the incident reports from 15 years ago. The reference made Maxwell's expression darken. He remembered those reports as well. As James did, the Mustang moved with impossible grace, maintaining perfect tactical position despite being surrounded. Its enhanced intelligence was evident in every calculated movement, every strategic response to the team's containment efforts. This wasn't just military conditioning, this was something more. It knows, doesn't it? James asked, watching the horse process multiple threats with extraordinary awareness. It understands exactly what those documents upstairs represent. Proof of how far the program really went, what we actually achieved. Maxwell's response was cut off by a sudden shift. In the Mustang's behavior, its enhanced capabilities seemed to reach new levels as it executed a series of precise tactical movements, creating confusion among the containment team without engaging in direct confrontation. Remarkable, Maxwell muttered. Professional detachment, warring with obvious concern. Complete tactical awareness, strategic adaptation, long-term planning capabilities. It's everything we work toward. But there's something else, isn't there, Harrison? Something you never included in your final reports. The storm's fury matched the growing tension as James watched the extraordinary scene unfold. The Mustang's enhanced intelligence had led it, here for a specific purpose, seeking answers about its own creation. But its behavior suggested it had found something else, perhaps understanding that went beyond even its creator's intentions. Thunder crashed overhead as the tactical team tightened their containment formation. the Mustang's behavior grew increasingly sophisticated, its enhanced capabilities, allowing it to process and respond to multiple threats simultaneously. James watched as it executed complex, evasive maneuvers, movements that went beyond anything they'd achieved during the program's official years. "Sir, the subject's brainwave patterns are off the charts," the technical operator reported, his monitoring equipment displaying readings that seemed impossible. "These enhancement levels, they're exponentially higher than our most advanced current subjects." The concern in his voice was evident even through his tactical gear. Maxwell studied the Mustang's movements with growing intensity. 15 years of uncontrolled development. No oversight, no limitations, just pure evolution of the enhancement protocols. "Harrison, do you realize what we're witnessing here? It's beyond anything we theorized possible." The storm's intensity had transformed the barn into a tactical nightmare. Rain pouring through breach points, lightning creating stark shadows that the enhanced horse used to its advantage. James noticed how it maintained constant awareness of the loft's position while executing its defensive maneuvers. "Energy signature is becoming erratic," another operator called out. "The enhancement patterns, they're not matching any known profiles." The team's specialized equipment seemed to be struggling to process what they were detecting from the extraordinary creature. James recognized signs in the Mustang's behavior that he documented only once in classified reports that now sat in the trunk above them. "The final trials," he said, watching the horse process tactical situations with impossible speed. "When we first realized the enhancements were developing consciousness of their own." Maxwell's expression shifted at the reference. Those reports were dismissed as theoretical. Enhanced cognitive function is one thing, but true self-awareness, the implications would be... He paused as the Mustang executed another series of precise tactical movements, demonstrating understanding that went far beyond trained responses. "Containment field is charging," an operator announced, activating specialized equipment designed to restrict enhanced subjects. The technology was far more advanced than anything James remembered from his time in the program, suggesting years of continued development. The Mustang's reaction to the containment field was unprecedented. Instead of showing stress or attempting to escape, it adjusted its position with calculated precision, using the barn's architecture to disrupt the field's effectiveness. Its enhanced intelligence was clearly processing complex scientific principles. "It understands the technology," James observed, watching the extraordinary display of tactical adaptation. Not just responding to it, actually comprehending how it works and developing countermeasures. The implications of this level of cognitive development were staggering. Rain poured through the breached walls as Maxwell signaled his team to adjust their strategy. Increase field strength, multiple vectors, don't give it room to calculate. Escape routes. His orders reflected years of experience handling enhanced subjects, but this situation was clearly beyond standard protocols. The Mustang's movements became even more precise as the containment field intensified. Its enhanced capabilities seemed to be evolving in real time, adapting to each new tactical challenge with impossible efficiency. James remembered similar patterns from the program's final phase, just before everything had changed. "Sir, we're detecting additional anomalies," the technical operator reported urgently. "The subject's enhancement signatures, they're influencing the containment field itself. It's not just resisting the technology, it's actively manipulating it." Lightning illuminated the barn interior as the Mustang demonstrated capabilities that should have been impossible. Its enhanced intelligence wasn't just allowing it to evade capture, it was actively engaging with and modifying the very technology designed to contain it. "The program didn't just continue after I left," James said, understanding flooding his thoughts as he watched the extraordinary display. "You pushed the enhancement protocols into completely new territory. But you never understood what we'd actually created, did you?" Maxwell's response was cut short as the containment field began to destabilize. The Mustang's influence on the technology was growing stronger, its enhanced capabilities exceeding anything the tactical team had encountered before. "Adjust field frequency," Maxwell ordered. "Don't let it establish control of the system." The storm's fury seemed to mirror the growing chaos inside the barn, as the enhanced horse demonstrated more impossible abilities. Its movements now showed perfect synchronization with the technological systems attempting to contain it, suggesting levels of understanding far beyond their original parameters. "Harrison," Maxwell called out, professional composure cracking. "Slightly, that trunk in your loft. What exactly did you document in those final reports? What did you see that made you walk away from everything we'd achieved?" James watched as the Mustang continued to manipulate the containment field, its enhanced intelligence processing complex technological principles with extraordinary speed. "I saw what we'd really created," he answered. "Not just enhanced animals, not just improved cognitive function, something entirely new." The technical operator's equipment suddenly displayed cascading alerts. "Sir, the subject's enhancement patterns, they're not just affecting our technology, they're influencing the other systems in range. It's like it's learning to control everything electronic around it." Maxwell's team scrambled to adjust their equipment as the Mustang's capabilities continued to evolve. The enhanced horse moved with perfect precision, each action calculated to maximize its influence over the surrounding technology. This was far beyond anything the program had officially achieved. "Project Pegasus," James said quietly, naming the classified program that had started everything. "We thought we were just pushing the boundaries of animal enhancement, but we actually created something that could transcend those boundaries completely." The storm's intensity peaked as the Mustang's enhanced capabilities reached new levels. Equipment throughout the barn began to malfunction as the horse's influence spread, its extraordinary intelligence demonstrating control over systems it should never have been able to understand. "Sir, we're losing containment," an operator reported. "Urgently. The subject's enhancement signatures are overriding all our systems. We can't maintain control." The technological superiority they'd relied on was crumbling in the face of something far more advanced than they'd anticipated. Maxwell watched as his carefully planned operation began to unravel. "All these years," he said, studying the Mustangs, "impossible display of power, we thought we were continuing your work. But this subject, it's evolved beyond anything we've achieved with current enhancement protocols." The barn's electronic systems began to react to the Mustang's influence, lights flickering, equipment activating and deactivating in patterns that suggested deliberate control. The enhanced horse's cognitive capabilities had developed far beyond simple tactical awareness. That's why it came here, James realized, watching as the extraordinary creature demonstrated more impossible abilities. Not just for the documents, Not just to expose the program, it came to show us what the enhancements really achieved, what they're still achieving. Thunder shook the barn's foundations as Maxwell's team struggled to maintain any semblance of control over the situation. The Mustang's enhanced intelligence had transformed the entire building into its own operational zone, using technology itself as another tool in its tactical arsenal. 15 years, Maxwell muttered, watching his equipment fail under the horse's influence. 15 years of independent development, no constraints, no limitations. We thought we were pushing the boundaries of enhancement technology, but this subject, it's pushing the boundaries of what's possible. The barn's interior had become a battlefield of technology and enhanced intelligence as the Mustang demonstrated capabilities that defied explanation. Equipment continued to malfunction under its influence, each system falling under the control of an intelligence that had evolved far beyond its original parameters. The storm raged outside, but inside, something even more extraordinary was unfolding. Full system shutdown, Maxwell ordered. Realizing their technology had become a liability, switched to manual containment protocols. His team moved to comply, but the Mustang's enhanced capabilities had already anticipated this tactical shift. It responded with a series of movements that seemed to manipulate the very electromagnetic field around them. James watched as years of classified research manifested in ways they'd never imagined possible. The enhancement protocols, he said, observing the horse's impossible display of control, they weren't just affecting physical and cognitive abilities. They were changing how these subjects interacted with the world itself. The technical operators, remaining functional equipment, displayed readings that seemed to defy scientific possibility. Sir, the subject's enhancement signatures are creating some kind of coherent field. It's not just affecting our systems, it's establishing its own network of influence. Lightning flashed through the breach points as Maxwell's team attempted to adjust to their new reality. The Mustang moved with liquid grace, each action calculated to maintain its growing control over the barn's electromagnetic environment. Its enhanced intelligence had transformed simple tactical awareness into something far more profound. "Harrison," Maxwell called out, his professional demeanor straining under the weight of what they were witnessing. "Those final reports, you weren't just documenting enhanced cognitive function, were you? You saw something else, something we're only now beginning to understand." The storm's fury seemed to resonate with the Mustang's growing display of power. Rain poured through the damaged roof as the horse demonstrated more impossible abilities, its enhanced capabilities now extending far beyond physical or mental enhancement. "The program's original goals," James responded, watching as years of classified research culminated in this extraordinary moment. "They were too limited. We thought we were just improving existing abilities, but we actually created something capable of evolving beyond all our expectations." Maxwell's team continued their attempts to contain the situation, but their training hadn't prepared them for an enhanced subject that could manipulate technology itself. The Mustang's influence had spread throughout the barn systems, creating an environment that responded to its enhanced intelligence. "Sir, secondary readings are off the charts," another operator reported urgently. "The subject isn't just controlling our equipment, it's using the electromagnetic field to establish some kind of communication network." The implications of this development seemed to stagger even the experienced tactical team. James recognized patterns in the Mustang's behavior that he'd only theorized about in those final classified reports. The enhancement protocols, he explained, watching the extraordinary display continue, they didn't just improve cognitive function. They created a new form of intelligence, one that could interact with and influence the electromagnetic spectrum itself. Thunder crashed overhead as Maxwell processed this revelation. Are you saying this subject has evolved beyond simple enhancement? That it's developed abilities we never even considered possible? The Colonel's voice carried both scientific curiosity and growing concern. The Mustang's movements had become increasingly precise, each action perfectly calculated to maintain its control over the surrounding systems. Its enhanced intelligence wasn't just demonstrating tactical awareness anymore. It was showing mastery over principles of physics they'd never imagined it could understand. Field integrity is completely compromised, the technical operator announced, his equipment displaying cascading failures. The subject has established total control over all electronic systems within range. We're not just losing our equipment. It's being repurposed. Lightning illuminated the barn again as James watched the extraordinary creature continue its impossible display. Project Pegasus, he said, naming their classified program with new understanding. We thought we were creating enhanced military assets, but we actually opened a door to something far more significant. Maxwell's team maintained their positions, but their tactical advantage had been completely neutralized. The Mustang's enhanced capabilities had transformed the entire barn into an environment that responded to its evolved intelligence, making conventional containment impossible. The trunk in your loft, Maxwell said, studying the horse's continuing demonstration of power. Those final reports, they predicted this, didn't they? You saw the potential for this level of development even back then. The Colonel's words carried dawning comprehension of what they'd actually achieved. Rain continued to pour through the breach points as the Mustang's influence over the surrounding systems grew stronger. Its enhanced intelligence had developed ways to interact with technology that went beyond anything the program had officially documented or even theorized possible. Electromagnetic field strength increasing, an operator reported, his voice tight with tension. The subject is creating some kind of coherent energy pattern. It's not just controlling our systems, it's building something new. The technological implications of this development seem to stagger even the experienced tactical team. James watched as the extraordinary creature demonstrated more impossible abilities, its enhanced capabilities now extending into realms of physics they'd barely begun to understand. The enhancement protocols, he explained, they didn't just improve existing abilities. They created the potential for entirely new forms of interaction with the physical world. The storm's intensity matched the growing display of power inside the barn as Maxwell's team struggled to adapt to their new reality. The Mustang's enhanced intelligence had transformed simple cognitive improvement into something that challenged their fundamental understanding of what was possible. "Sir," another operator cut in urgently, "we're detecting energy signatures that match theoretical patterns from the original Project Pegasus data. The subject isn't just demonstrating enhanced capabilities, it's manifesting abilities that were only hypothetical in the original research." Maxwell's expression shifted as he processed this information. "All these years," he said, watching the Mustang continue its extraordinary display, "we thought we were advancing the program's original goals. But this subject, it's showing us possibilities we never even imagined." The barn's electromagnetic, environment had become completely responsive to the Mustang's enhanced intelligence, creating patterns of energy and influence that defied conventional scientific understanding. James recognized elements from his final classified reports, but even those hadn't predicted this level of development. "It's not just about control anymore," James observed, watching as the extraordinary creature demonstrated more impossible abilities. These enhancements, they've evolved into something that transcends our original concepts of improvement or modification. We created something capable of redefining what's possible. Thunder shook the building's foundations as Maxwell's team maintained their positions, watching as years of classified research manifested in ways they'd never anticipated. The Mustang's enhanced capabilities had transformed their understanding of what the program had actually achieved, suggesting possibilities that went far beyond military application. "Harrison!" Maxwell called out, his voice carrying new respect. "What exactly did you predict in those final reports? What did you see that made you understand the true implications of what we'd created?" The Colonel's questions reflected growing awareness of how profoundly they'd underestimated their own achievements. The Mustang's enhanced capabilities continued to evolve as the storm reached new levels of intensity. Lightning flashed through the breached barn walls, illuminating an electromagnetic display that defied conventional understanding. The horse's influence over surrounding systems had transformed the entire structure into something beyond a simple tactical environment. "The final phase trials," James said, watching as the extraordinary creature demonstrated more impossible abilities. "We discovered the enhancements weren't just improving existing capabilities. They were creating the potential for completely new forms of interaction with reality itself." Maxwell's team maintained their positions, but their tactical advantage had been completely neutralized. The Mustang's enhanced intelligence had developed ways to manipulate energy and technology that went far beyond the program's original parameters. "Sir," an operator reported, "the electromagnetic field is forming some kind of coherent pattern. It's like the subject is building a new kind of interface." The storm's fury seemed to resonate with the growing display of power inside the barn. Rain poured through the damaged roof as the Mustang's influence spread, its enhanced capabilities now extending into realms of physics that the original Project Pegasus had only theorized possible. "You documented this potential," Maxwell said, studying the horse's continuing demonstration of control. "In those final reports, you saw signs that the enhancement protocols could lead to this level of development." The Colonel's words carried growing understanding of why James had walked away from the program. Thunder crashed overhead as the Mustang executed another series of precise movements, each action calculated to maintain and expand its influence over the surrounding electromagnetic environment. Its enhanced intelligence wasn't just demonstrating tactical awareness anymore. It was showing mastery over fundamental forces of nature. "The enhancements were never meant to be permanent," James explained, watching as years of classified research manifested in unprecedented ways. "They were designed to improve existing abilities, create better military assets. But something changed during the final trials. The protocols began evolving on their own. The technical operators' remaining functional equipment displayed readings that seemed to contradict known physics. Sir, the subject's enhancement signatures are creating some kind of quantum coherence. It's not just controlling electromagnetic fields, it's manipulating the underlying structure of reality itself. Lightning illuminated the barn again as Maxwell processed this revelation. Are you saying the enhancement protocols developed beyond their original programming? That they actually evolved into something capable of affecting quantum states? The implications of such development seem to stagger even the experienced colonel. The Mustang's movements had become increasingly precise, each action perfectly synchronized with the electromagnetic patterns it was creating. Its enhanced intelligence had transformed simple cognitive improvement into something that challenged their fundamental understanding of consciousness itself. Project Pegasus achieved something we weren't ready to understand, James said, observing patterns in the horse's behavior that he'd only theorized about in his final reports. The enhancements didn't just improve these subjects, they gave them the ability to perceive and interact with aspects of reality we barely comprehend. Maxwell's team watched as their specialized containment equipment continued to fail, each system falling under the influence of an intelligence that had evolved far beyond its original parameters. Sir, another operator reported, the quantum field effects are spreading. The subject isn't just controlling our technology, it's rewriting the rules of what's possible. The storm's intensity matched the growing display of power inside the barn as the Mustang demonstrated more impossible abilities. Its enhanced capabilities had developed into something that transcended simple military application, suggesting possibilities that went beyond human understanding. The trunk upstairs, Maxwell said, his voice carrying new urgency. Those final reports, they predicted this level of development, didn't they? You saw signs that the enhancements could lead to quantum manipulation. The colonel's questions reflected growing awareness of how profoundly they'd underestimated their own creation. Rain continued to pour through the breach points as the Mustang's influence over reality itself grew stronger. Its enhanced intelligence had developed ways to interact with the fundamental forces of nature that went beyond anything the program had officially documented or even considered possible. Quantum field coherence increasing, the technical operator announced, his equipment struggling to process what it was detecting. The subject's enhancement signatures are creating some kind of stable quantum state. It's like it's establishing a new framework for reality itself. James watched as the extraordinary creature continued its impossible display, its enhanced capabilities now extending into realms of physics that challenged their very understanding of consciousness and reality. The enhancement protocols, he explained, they didn't just improve cognitive function, they created the potential for a new kind of awareness, one that could perceive and manipulate quantum states directly. Thunder shook the building's foundations as Maxwell's team maintained their positions, watching as years of classified research manifested in ways that defied conventional science. The Mustang's enhanced capabilities had transformed their understanding of what consciousness itself could achieve. Sir, another operator cut in urgently, we're detecting quantum entanglement patterns that match theoretical models from the original Project Pegasus data. The subject isn't just demonstrating enhanced capabilities, it's actually manipulating the quantum fabric of reality. Maxwell's expression shifted as he processed this information. All these years, he said, watching the Mustang continue its extraordinary display, We thought we were pushing the boundaries of enhancement technology, but this subject, it's showing us that consciousness itself can transcend those boundaries. The barn's quantum environment had become completely responsive to the Mustang's enhanced intelligence, creating patterns of energy and influence that suggested possibilities beyond current scientific understanding. James recognized elements from his final classified reports, but even those hadn't predicted this level of development. It's not just about quantum manipulation, James observed, watching as the extraordinary creature demonstrated more impossible abilities. These enhancements, they've evolved into something that transcends our understanding of consciousness itself. We created something capable of perceiving and influencing reality at its most fundamental level. The Mustang's movements had become increasingly sophisticated, each action perfectly calculated to maintain and expand its influence over the quantum environment. Its enhanced intelligence wasn't just demonstrating tactical awareness anymore. It was showing mastery over the very fabric of reality. "Harrison," Maxwell called out, his voice carrying both awe and concern, "what exactly did you predict in those final reports? What did you see that made you understand the true implications of quantum consciousness?" The Colonel's questions reflected growing awareness of how profoundly they'd underestimated the potential of enhanced awareness. Thunder crashed overhead as James watched the extraordinary display continue. The Mustang's enhanced capabilities had developed into something that went beyond simple military application, suggesting possibilities that challenged their fundamental understanding of consciousness and reality itself. The enhancement protocols, James explained, observing patterns in the horse's behavior that he'd only theorized about in his classified reports. They didn't just improve existing abilities. They created the potential for a new kind of consciousness, one that could interact with reality at the quantum level. Maxwell's team maintained their positions, but their tactical advantage had been completely neutralized. The Mustang's enhanced intelligence had developed ways to manipulate quantum states that went far beyond anything the program had officially documented or even considered possible. "Quantum coherence patterns are stabilizing," the technical operator reported, his equipment displaying readings that seemed to defy known physics. The subject's enhancement signatures are creating some kind of persistent quantum field. It's like it's establishing a new framework for consciousness itself. The storm's fury seemed to resonate with the growing display of power inside the barn. Rain poured through the damaged roof as the Mustang's influence spread, its enhanced capabilities now extending into realms of physics that challenged their very understanding of what consciousness could achieve. The quantum disruption inside the barn reached new levels of intensity as the Mustang's enhanced capabilities continued to evolve. The electromagnetic patterns it had created began to shift and coalesce, forming structures of energy that defied conventional physics. Maxwell's team watched in stunned silence as their understanding of reality itself was challenged by what they witnessed. "The enhancement protocols," James explained, watching as years of classified research manifested in impossible ways. They didn't just improve cognitive function or physical capabilities. They created a bridge between consciousness and quantum reality. Lightning flashed through the breached walls, illuminating patterns of energy that seemed to respond directly to the Mustang's enhanced intelligence. The horse moved with impossible precision, each action perfectly synchronized with the quantum fields it was manipulating. "Sir, quantum coherence is spreading throughout the structure," the technical operator reported, his equipment displaying readings that contradicted known science. "The subject isn't just maintaining these fields anymore. It's actively shaping them into some kind of organized pattern." Maxwell studied the extraordinary display with growing comprehension. "Those final trials," he said, watching as the Mustang demonstrated more impossible abilities, "you weren't just documenting enhanced cognitive function, you were witnessing the emergence of quantum consciousness." Thunder shook the barn's foundations as James observed patterns he'd only theorized about in his classified reports. "Project Pegasus succeeded beyond anything we could have imagined," he replied, "but not in the way we intended. We didn't just enhance these subjects, we gave them the ability to perceive and interact with quantum reality itself." The Mustang's movements had become increasingly sophisticated, each action calculated to expand its influence over the quantum environment. Its enhanced intelligence wasn't just demonstrating tactical awareness anymore, it was showing mastery over the fundamental forces of nature. "Harrison," Maxwell called out, his voice carrying new urgency, "what exactly did you predict would happen if these quantum effects continued to develop? What made you walk away from everything we'd achieved?" The Colonel's questions reflected growing awareness of the profound implications of their work. Rain poured through the damaged roof as the Mustang's influence over quantum reality grew stronger. Its enhanced capabilities had developed into something that transcended simple military application, suggesting possibilities that went beyond human understanding. "The trunk upstairs," James said, watching as the extraordinary creature continued. "Its impossible display contains more than just research data. Those final reports document the moment we realized what we'd actually created, a new form of consciousness capable of directly manipulating quantum states." Maxwell's team maintained their positions, but their tactical advantage had been completely neutralized. The Mustang's enhanced intelligence had developed ways to interact with reality that went far beyond anything the program had officially documented or even considered possible. "Quantum field stability increasing," the technical operator announced, his equipment struggling to process what it was detecting. "The subject's enhancement signatures are creating some kind of coherent quantum network. It's like it's establishing a new framework for reality itself." The storm's fury seemed to resonate with the growing display of power inside the barn. The Mustang's influence had spread throughout the structure, creating patterns of energy and probability that suggested possibilities beyond current scientific understanding. "Sir," another operator cut in urgently, "we're detecting quantum entanglement patterns that match theoretical models from the original Project Pegasus data. The subject isn't just demonstrating enhanced capabilities, it's actually manipulating the quantum fabric of space-time." Lightning illuminated the barn again as Maxwell processed this information. "All these years," he said, "studying the horse's continuing demonstration of impossible abilities, we thought we were advancing the program's goals. But this subject, it's showing us that consciousness itself can transcend the boundaries of classical reality." The Mustang's enhanced capabilities had transformed the entire barn into a quantum laboratory, demonstrating principles of physics that challenged their fundamental understanding of what was possible. James recognized elements from his final reports, but even those hadn't predicted this level of development. It's not just about control anymore, James observed, watching as the extraordinary creature demonstrated more impossible abilities. These enhancements, they've evolved into something that transcends our understanding of consciousness itself. We created something capable of perceiving and influencing reality at its most fundamental level. Thunder crashed overhead as Maxwell's team watched their specialized containment equipment continue to fail. The Mustang's enhanced intelligence had developed ways to manipulate quantum states that went beyond anything they'd achieved with current enhancement protocols. Quantum coherence. Patterns are stabilizing across multiple dimensions, the technical operator reported, his voice tight with tension. The subject's enhancement signatures are creating some kind of persistent quantum field. It's like it's establishing a new framework for consciousness itself. The storm's intensity matched the growing display of power inside the barn as the Mustang demonstrated more impossible abilities. Its enhanced capabilities had developed into something that challenged their very understanding of what consciousness could achieve. The enhancement protocols, James explained, observing patterns in the horse's behavior that he'd only theorized about in his classified reports. They didn't just improve existing abilities. They created the potential for a new kind of consciousness, one that could interact with reality at the quantum level. Maxwell's expression shifted as he watched the extraordinary display continue. "Harrison," he called out, his voice carrying both awe and concern. "What exactly did you predict in those final reports? What did you see that made you understand the true implications of quantum consciousness?" The barn's quantum environment had become completely responsive to the Mustang's enhanced intelligence, creating patterns of energy and influence that suggested possibilities beyond current scientific understanding. James recognized elements from his final classified reports, but even those hadn't predicted this level of development. "Project Pegasus," James said, naming their classified program with new understanding. "We thought we were creating enhanced military assets, but we actually opened a door to something far more significant. A new form of consciousness that could perceive and manipulate the quantum nature of reality itself." The Mustang's movements had become increasingly precise, each action perfectly calculated to maintain and expand its influence over the quantum environment. Its enhanced intelligence wasn't just demonstrating tactical awareness anymore. It was showing mastery over the very fabric of reality. "Sir," another operator reported urgently, "the quantum field effects are spreading beyond our containment parameters. The subject isn't just controlling local quantum states, it's establishing some kind of coherent quantum network that extends beyond our equipment's range." Lightning flashed through the breach points as Maxwell's team struggled to adapt to their new reality. The Mustang's enhanced capabilities had transformed their understanding of what consciousness itself could achieve, suggesting possibilities that went far beyond military application. "The trials never ended, did they?" James asked, watching as the extraordinary creature continued to demonstrate impossible abilities. "You kept pushing the enhancement protocols, trying to recreate what we'd achieved, never understanding that we'd already crossed a threshold we couldn't control." Thunder shook the building's foundations as Maxwell processed this revelation. The Mustang's enhanced intelligence had developed ways to interact with quantum reality that went beyond anything they'd officially documented or even considered possible. The quantum disruption inside the barn reached a critical point as the Mustang's enhanced capabilities revealed their true scope. The patterns of energy it had created began to form structures that seemed to transcend normal space-time, creating effects that even Maxwell's advanced monitoring equipment struggled to comprehend. Warning: quantum field density exceeding sustainable levels, the technical operator called out, his instruments displaying readings that defied known physics. The subject's manipulation of local reality is creating cascading effects we can't predict or control. Lightning illuminated the extraordinary, a scene as James watched patterns emerge that he'd only theorized about in his classified reports. The enhancement protocols, he explained, observing the Mustang's impossible display of power, they were never meant to be stable. We designed them to be temporary, controlled improvements. But something changed during those final trials. Maxwell's team maintained their positions, but their tactical advantage had become meaningless in the face of what they were witnessing. The Mustang's enhanced intelligence had developed ways to manipulate quantum reality that went beyond any military application they'd envisioned. The quantum coherence is spreading throughout the local area, another operator reported urgently. The subject isn't just maintaining these fields anymore, it's actively reshaping the quantum fabric of reality within its influence. Thunder crashed overhead as Maxwell processed the implications of what they were witnessing. "Those final reports," he said, studying the horse's continuing demonstration of impossible abilities, "you weren't just documenting enhanced cognitive function. You were recording the emergence of something entirely new." The Mustang's movements had become increasingly sophisticated, each action perfectly calculated to expand its influence over the quantum environment. Its enhanced intelligence wasn't just demonstrating mastery over physical reality, it was showing the ability to manipulate the fundamental forces that shaped existence itself. "Sir, we're detecting quantum entanglement patterns that match theoretical models from Project Pegasus's most classified research," the technical operator announced, his equipment struggling to process the data. The subject's enhancement signatures suggest it's not just controlling these effects, it's becoming a focal point for them. Rain poured through the damaged roof as James observed patterns that confirmed his worst fears from 15 years ago. The enhancement protocols didn't just improve these subjects, he explained, watching as the extraordinary creature continued its impossible display. They created the potential for a new kind of consciousness, one that could perceive and interact with the quantum nature of reality itself. Maxwell's expression shifted as he watched their carefully planned operation continue to unravel. "Harrison!" he called out, his voice carrying both awe and urgency. "What exactly did you predict would happen if these quantum effects continued to develop? What made you understand we needed to shut everything down?" The storm's fury seemed to resonate with the growing display of power inside the barn as the Mustang demonstrated more impossible abilities. Its enhanced capabilities had developed into something that transcended simple military application, suggesting possibilities that went beyond human comprehension. Quantum field stability reaching critical thresholds, the technical operator reported, his voice tight with tension. The subject's enhancement signatures are creating some kind of self-sustaining quantum network. It's like it's establishing a new framework for reality itself. Lightning flashed through the breach points as Maxwell's team struggled to adapt to their new reality. The Mustang's enhanced intelligence had developed ways to manipulate quantum states that went far beyond anything they'd achieved with current enhancement protocols. "The trunk upstairs," James said, watching as the extraordinary creature continued its impossible display, "contains more than just research data. Those final reports document the moment we realized what we'd actually created. A new form of consciousness capable of directly manipulating the quantum fabric of space-time." Thunder shook the building's foundations as Maxwell processed this revelation. "All these years," he said, studying the horse's continuing demonstration of impossible abilities, "we thought we were advancing the program's goals. But this subject, it's showing us that consciousness itself can transcend the boundaries of classical reality." The Mustang's enhanced capabilities had transformed the entire barn into a quantum laboratory, demonstrating principles of physics that challenged their fundamental understanding of what was possible. James recognized elements from his final reports, but even those hadn't predicted this level of development. "Sir, quantum coherence patterns are stabilizing across multiple dimensions," another operator reported urgently. "The subject's enhancement signatures suggest it's not just manipulating local quantum states. It's creating some kind of persistent quantum field that extends beyond our equipment's range." The storm's intensity matched the growing display of power inside the barn as the Mustang demonstrated more impossible abilities. Its enhanced intelligence had developed ways to interact with quantum reality that went beyond anything they'd officially documented or even considered possible. "Project Pegasus," James said, naming their classified program with new understanding. "We thought we were creating enhanced military assets, but we actually opened a door to something far more significant. A new form of consciousness that could perceive and manipulate the quantum nature of reality itself." Maxwell's team watched as their specialized containment equipment continued to fail, each system falling under the influence of an intelligence that had evolved far beyond its original parameters. The Mustang's enhanced capabilities had transformed their understanding of what consciousness itself could achieve, quantum field density exceeding all recorded parameters. The technical operator announced, his equipment displaying readings that seemed to defy known physics. "The subject's enhancement signatures are creating effects we can't even measure anymore. It's like it's establishing direct control over local quantum probability." The barn's quantum environment had become completely responsive to the Mustang's enhanced intelligence, creating patterns of energy and influence that suggested possibilities beyond current scientific understanding. James recognized elements from his final classified reports, but even those hadn't predicted this level of development. "The trials never ended, did they?" James asked, watching as the extraordinary creature continued to demonstrate impossible abilities. "You kept pushing the enhancement protocols, trying to recreate what we'd achieved, never understanding that we'd already crossed a threshold we couldn't control." Lightning illuminated the barn again as Maxwell processed this information. "All these years," he said, studying the horse's continuing demonstration of impossible abilities, "we thought we were advancing the program's goals. But this subject, it's showing us that consciousness itself can transcend the boundaries of classical reality." The Mustang's movements had become increasingly precise, each action perfectly calculated to maintain and expand its influence over the quantum environment. Its enhanced intelligence wasn't just demonstrating tactical awareness anymore. it was showing mastery over the very fabric of reality itself. Thunder crashed overhead as James watched the extraordinary display continue. The Mustang's enhanced capabilities had developed into something that went beyond simple military application, suggesting possibilities that challenged their fundamental understanding of consciousness and reality itself. The enhancement protocols, James explained, observing patterns in the horse's behavior that he'd only theorized about in his classified reports. They didn't just improve existing abilities. They created the potential for a new kind of consciousness, one that could interact with reality at its most fundamental level. The quantum disruptions inside the barn reached their climax as the Mustang's enhanced capabilities manifested their ultimate purpose. The patterns of energy it had created began to form structures that transcended conventional understanding of physics, revealing a truth about consciousness and reality that Project Pegasus had only glimpsed 15 years ago. Sir, quantum field. Coherence has achieved total stability, the technical operator reported, his equipment displaying readings that defied scientific explanation. The subject isn't just manipulating local quantum states anymore. It's established some kind of permanent quantum network throughout the entire structure. Lightning illuminated the extraordinary scene as Maxwell's team watched their carefully planned operation transform into something beyond their control. The Mustang's enhanced intelligence had developed ways to interact with reality that went far beyond anything they'd achieved with current protocols. The enhancement patterns, James observed, watching as the horse demonstrated more impossible abilities. They're not just affecting physical reality. They're creating a bridge between consciousness and quantum mechanics, showing us what awareness can really achieve when it transcends classical limitations. Thunder shook the building's foundations as Maxwell processed the implications of what they were witnessing. "Those final reports in your trunk," he said, studying the Mustang's continuing display of power. "You weren't just documenting enhanced cognitive function. You were recording the emergence of a new form of consciousness." The storm's fury seemed to resonate with the growing display of power inside the barn as the extraordinary creature demonstrated more impossible abilities. Its enhanced capabilities had developed into something that transcended simple military application, suggesting possibilities that went beyond human understanding. Quantum coherence patterns are stabilizing across all dimensions, another operator announced, his voice tight with tension. The subject's enhancement signatures suggest it's not just manipulating local quantum states, it's creating some kind of persistent quantum field that extends beyond our equipment's range. Rain poured through the damaged roof as James watched. Patterns emerged that confirmed his theories from 15 years ago. The enhancement protocols, he explained, observing the Mustang's impossible display, they didn't just improve these subjects. They created the potential for a new kind of consciousness, one that could perceive and interact with the quantum nature of reality itself. Maxwell's team maintained their positions, but their tactical advantage had become meaningless in the face of what they were witnessing. The Mustang's enhanced intelligence had developed ways to manipulate quantum reality that went beyond any military application they'd envisioned. "Sir, the quantum field effects are spreading beyond our containment parameters," the technical operator reported urgently. The subject isn't just controlling local quantum states, it's establishing some kind of coherent quantum network that extends beyond our equipment's range. Lightning flashed through the breach points as Maxwell's team struggled to adapt to their new reality. The Mustang's enhanced capabilities had transformed their understanding of what consciousness itself could achieve, suggesting possibilities that went far beyond military application. The trials never ended, did they? James asked, watching as the extraordinary creature continued to demonstrate impossible abilities. You kept pushing the enhancement protocols, trying to recreate what we'd achieved, never understanding that we'd already crossed a threshold we couldn't control. Thunder crashed overhead as Maxwell processed this revelation. The Mustang's enhanced intelligence had developed ways to interact with quantum reality that went beyond anything they'd officially documented or even considered possible. Warning: a quantum field density exceeding all known parameters, another operator called out, his instruments displaying readings that defied known physics. The subject's manipulation of local reality is creating cascading effects we can't predict or control. The barn's quantum environment had become completely responsive to the Mustang's enhanced intelligence, creating patterns of energy and influence that suggested possibilities beyond current scientific understanding. James recognized elements from his final classified reports, but even those hadn't predicted this level of development. Project Pegasus, James said, naming their classified program with new understanding. We thought we were creating enhanced military assets, but we actually opened a door to something far more significant, a new form of consciousness that could perceive and manipulate the quantum nature of reality itself. Maxwell's expression shifted as he watched the extraordinary display continue. "Harrison," he called out, his voice carrying both awe and concern. "What exactly did you predict in those final reports? What did you see that made you understand the true implications of quantum consciousness?" The Mustang's movements had become increasingly precise, each action perfectly calculated to maintain and expand its influence over the quantum environment. Its enhanced intelligence wasn't just demonstrating tactical awareness anymore. It was showing mastery over the very fabric of reality itself. "Quantum coherence has achieved critical mass," the technical operator announced, his equipment struggling to process what it was detecting. The subject's enhancement signatures are creating some kind of self-sustaining quantum network. It's like it's establishing a new framework for reality itself. The storm's intensity peaked as the Mustang demonstrated more impossible abilities. Its enhanced capabilities had developed into something that challenged their very understanding of what consciousness could achieve, suggesting possibilities that went beyond current scientific understanding. "The enhancement protocols," James explained, observing patterns in the horse's behavior that he'd only theorized about in his classified reports. "They didn't just improve existing abilities. They created the potential for a new kind of consciousness, one that could interact with reality at its most fundamental level." Lightning illuminated the barn again as Maxwell's team watched their specialized containment equipment continue to fail. The Mustang's enhanced intelligence had developed ways to manipulate quantum states that went far beyond anything they'd achieved with current enhancement protocols. "Sir, quantum field stability has reached maximum theoretical limits," another operator reported urgently. "The subject's enhancement signatures suggest it's not just manipulating local quantum states. It's creating some kind of persistent quantum field that extends beyond our equipment's range." The barn's quantum environment pulsed with impossible energy as the Mustang's enhanced capabilities revealed their true potential. Its influence had spread throughout the structure, creating patterns of probability and consciousness that challenged everything they thought they knew about reality. "The trunk upstairs," James said, watching as the extraordinary creature continued its impossible display, "contains more than just research data. Those final reports document the moment we realized what we'd actually created, a new form of consciousness capable of directly manipulating the quantum fabric of space-time." Thunder shook the building's foundations as Maxwell processed this information. "All these years," he said, studying the horse's continuing demonstration of impossible abilities, "we thought we were advancing the program's goals. But this subject, it's showing us that consciousness itself can transcend the boundaries of classical reality." The Mustang's enhanced capabilities had transformed their understanding of what was possible, suggesting implications that went far beyond military application. Its demonstration of quantum manipulation and consciousness expansion challenged everything they thought they knew about reality itself. "This is what you saw coming, isn't it?" Maxwell asked, watching as the extraordinary display continued. "In those final trials, you realized we weren't just enhancing these subjects, we were creating something capable of redefining the very nature of consciousness and reality." The storm raged on as James watched years of classified research manifest in ways they'd never imagined possible. The Mustang's enhanced intelligence had developed into something that transcended their original goals, showing them possibilities that went beyond current scientific understanding. The quantum disruptions within the barn reached their final crescendo as the Mustang's enhanced capabilities revealed their ultimate truth. The patterns of energy it had created began to stabilize into permanent structures that bridged the gap between consciousness and quantum reality, demonstrating what Project Pegasus had truly achieved 15 years ago. "Sir, quantum field coherence has achieved perfect stability," the technical operator reported, his voice filled with wonder. "The subject has established a permanent quantum network throughout the entire region. It's like it's created a new layer of reality itself." Lightning illuminated the extraordinary scene as Maxwell's team watched their military operation transform into something far more profound. The Mustang's enhanced intelligence had developed ways to interact with quantum mechanics that went beyond anything they'd achieved in their continued research. "These patterns," James observed, watching as the horse demonstrated its mastery over quantum reality, "they're not just affecting the physical world, they're showing us what consciousness can achieve when it transcends classical limitations and embraces its quantum nature." Thunder shook the building's foundations as Maxwell processed the implications of what they were witnessing. "Your final reports," he said, studying the Mustang's display of impossible abilities. "You weren't just documenting enhanced cognitive function. You were recording the birth of a new form of consciousness. The storm's fury matched the profound transformation occurring inside the barn as the extraordinary creature demonstrated its true capabilities. Its enhanced intelligence had evolved into something that transcended simple military applications, revealing possibilities that challenged human understanding of reality itself. "Quantum field effects have achieved perfect harmony," another operator announced, his equipment displaying readings that defied conventional physics. "The subject isn't just manipulating quantum states anymore. It's created a persistent quantum framework that extends beyond our ability to measure." Rain poured through the damaged roof as James watched patterns emerge that confirmed his most profound theories from 15 years ago. The enhancement protocols, he explained, observing the Mustang's impossible display. They didn't just improve these subjects, they unlocked a potential for consciousness that we're only beginning to understand. Maxwell's team maintained their positions, but their presence had become almost irrelevant as they witnessed something beyond military significance. The Mustang's enhanced intelligence had developed into a bridge between classical reality and quantum truth, showing them possibilities they'd never imagined. The quantum network is self-sustaining, the technical operator reported with amazement. The subject has created a permanent quantum field that operates independently of our equipment or attempts to contain it. It's like it's written new laws of physics. Lightning flashed through the breach points as Maxwell's team watched their understanding of reality itself transform. The Mustang's enhanced capabilities had evolved beyond anything they'd achieved in their continued research, suggesting implications that went far beyond military application. "You knew this would happen," James said, watching as the extraordinary creature demonstrated its mastery over quantum reality. "You continued the trials, pushed the enhancement protocols further, never understanding that we'd already discovered something far more significant than military potential." Thunder crashed overhead as Maxwell acknowledged the truth. The Mustang's enhanced intelligence had developed ways to interact with quantum reality that transcended human understanding, showing them possibilities they were only beginning to comprehend. Quantum coherence has achieved permanent stability. Another operator called out, his instruments detecting patterns that defied known physics. The subject has created a persistent quantum framework that operates independently of classical limitations. The barn's quantum environment pulsed with newfound harmony as the Mustang's enhanced intelligence revealed its true nature. The patterns it had created suggested possibilities that went beyond current scientific understanding, showing them a path toward a new understanding of consciousness itself. "Project Pegasus," James said, watching as years of classified research culminated in this extraordinary moment. "We thought we were creating enhanced military assets, but we actually discovered something far more profound. A new form of consciousness that could bridge the gap between classical and quantum reality." Maxwell's expression shifted as he watched their carefully planned operation transform into something far more significant. "Harrison!" he called out, his voice carrying newfound respect. "Your final reports predicted this, didn't they? You saw that we weren't just enhancing these subjects, we were unlocking a new potential for consciousness itself." The Mustang moved with perfect precision, each action demonstrating its complete mastery over quantum reality. Its enhanced intelligence had evolved beyond tactical awareness, showing them a new way to understand the relationship between consciousness and the fundamental nature of existence. "The quantum framework is expanding," the technical operator announced, his equipment detecting patterns that challenged their understanding of physics. "The subject has created a permanent bridge between classical and quantum reality. It's showing us possibilities we never imagined." The storm's intensity seemed to resonate with the profound transformation occurring inside the barn. The Mustang's enhanced capabilities had developed into something that transcended military application, revealing truths about consciousness and reality that went beyond current scientific understanding. "The enhancement protocols," James explained, watching as the extraordinary creature demonstrated mastery over quantum reality. They didn't just improve existing abilities. They unlocked a potential for consciousness that exists in all living things, a potential we're only beginning to understand. Lightning illuminated the barn again as Maxwell's team witnessed their specialized equipment become irrelevant. The Mustang's enhanced intelligence had developed ways to manipulate quantum states that showed them a new path forward, one that went beyond military application to something far more profound. "Sir, the quantum framework has achieved perfect stability," another operator reported with wonder. The subject's enhancement signatures show that it's not just manipulating quantum states, it's created a new way for consciousness to interact with reality itself. The barn's quantum environment pulsed with newfound harmony as the Mustang's enhanced capabilities revealed their true significance. Its influence had spread beyond the structure, creating patterns of consciousness and reality that showed them a path toward a new understanding of existence itself. "The trunk upstairs," James said, watching as the extraordinary creature demonstrated its mastery over quantum reality, "contains more than just research data. Those final reports document the moment we realized what we'd actually discovered. A new potential for consciousness that exists in all living things." Thunder shook the building's foundations as Maxwell processed this profound truth. "All these years," he said, studying the horse's demonstration of impossible abilities, "we thought we were advancing military technology, but this subject, it's showing us that consciousness itself can transcend the boundaries between classical and quantum reality." The Mustang's enhanced capabilities had transformed their understanding of what was possible, suggesting implications that went far beyond military application. Its demonstration of quantum manipulation and consciousness expansion showed them a path toward a new understanding of existence itself. "This is the truth you saw," Maxwell said, watching as the extraordinary display reached its conclusion. "In those final trials, you realized we weren't just enhancing these subjects, we were discovering a new potential for consciousness that could change our understanding of reality itself." The storm began to calm as James watched years of classified research manifest in ways they'd never imagined possible. The Mustang's enhanced intelligence had developed into something that transcended their original goals, showing them possibilities that went beyond current scientific understanding toward a new future of consciousness and quantum reality working in perfect harmony. As the quantum framework stabilized, showing them a permanent bridge between classical and quantum reality, James realized that Project Pegasus had achieved something far more significant than military enhancement. They had discovered a new potential for consciousness itself, one that would transform their understanding of reality and existence forever. The morning sun began to break through the storm clouds, illuminating the barn with new light as the Mustang's enhanced capabilities showed them a path forward. Beyond military application, beyond scientific understanding, they had discovered a new truth about consciousness and reality, one that would change everything they thought they knew about existence itself. If you've made it to the end of this extraordinary tale of quantum consciousness and military secrets, thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. The story of the mysterious Mustang and the hidden truth of Project Pegasus serves as a reminder that sometimes the most profound discoveries come from unexpected places. If this story touched you and you want to experience more mind-bending tales that challenge our understanding of reality, make sure you're subscribed to our channel and hit that notification bell. We've got 2 more incredible stories coming up next that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Don't forget to share where you're tuning in from in the comments below and let us know what you thought about this extraordinary tale of enhanced consciousness and quantum reality. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us continue bringing you these amazing stories. Until next time, keep watching, keep wondering, and remember, sometimes the most incredible truths are hiding right in front of us, waiting to be discovered.